In the wilderness, a hurt Mustang appears, limping and bleeding. Its desperate eyes lock onto a stranger's, and surprisingly, it asks for help. What unfolds is a deeply emotional story of survival and a bond that transforms everything. The morning sun stretches shadows across the rugged land as Hannah Williams, a wildlife biologist in her late 30s, adjusts her backpack. She knows the Colorado wilderness well, spending her days studying wild mustangs. Today seemed like any other day as she walked toward the river valley, her boots crunching on dry grass. Suddenly, a faint sound grabs her attention. She pauses, listening carefully. It's not the usual sounds of nature, but a soft, broken noise, almost like a cry. Worried, she scans the area and spots a figure in the distance. At first, it looks like a shadow against the golden sun, but as she squints, she realizes it's a horse, a Mustang. Something is clearly wrong. The animal limps toward her, moving slowly, its chestnut coat stained with dirt and blood, and one leg dragging behind. Hannah feels a pang in her heart. She's seen injured wildlife before, but this Mustang's pleading gaze stops her in her tracks. "Hey boy," she whispers, cautiously approaching. The Mustang freezes, ears back, nostrils flaring as it sizes her up. She slowly raises her hands, showing she means no harm. After a moment, the horse takes a shaky step closer. Kneeling down, Hannah's heart races. She sees the swollen leg and deep gash on its side. "You're hurt," she says gently, "but you'll be okay, I promise." She digs a small first aid kit from her backpack. The Mustang watches her warily, its dark eyes filled with fear. Hannah speaks in soothing tones as she moves closer. "You're brave for coming here." As she tends to the gash, the horse trembles but stays still. Almost done, she whispers, reassuring it. After finishing, she realizes the Mustang needs more help than she can provide alone. It needs proper care and food. But she can't leave it behind. Thinking quickly, she makes a halter from a rope in her pack. The horse tenses as she slips it on, but doesn't resist. "That's it," she encourages, gently pulling the rope. "Let's get you to safety." The journey back is tough and slow. The Mustang limps heavily, pausing often to catch its breath. Hannah stays close, offering quiet encouragement. By the time they reach her cabin, the sun is low, casting long shadows. She leads the Mustang to a small paddock near her barn. Filling a bucket with water, she watches as it drinks eagerly. "You're safe now," she whispers, leaning against the fence. "I don't know your story, but you're not alone." As the Mustang settles in, relief washes over Hannah, but she knows this is just the beginning of its recovery. Sunlight streams through the barn cracks the next morning, illuminating the Mustang in the paddock. Hannah watches from the porch, sipping coffee while mentally preparing for the day. She spent the night checking on the horse, ensuring it was comfortable. The Mustang's condition weighs on her, the gash needs more than a quick cleaning, and the swelling in its leg hasn't improved. But what troubles her most is the sadness in its eyes, a weariness that seems deeper than just physical pain. "This won't be easy," she murmurs, setting her mug down to grab her veterinary kit. When she approaches the paddock, the Mustang lifts its head, ears flicking toward her. The morning light shows its chestnut coat, still dirty and bloodied. "Good morning, boy," she says softly, leaning against the fence. The Mustang snorts, visible breath escaping in the cool air. Crouching at the gate, she opens it slowly and steps inside. The Mustang remains still, watching her closely. Knowing better than to rush, she speaks gently, holding her hands up to show she means no harm. Hannah spends the next hour carefully tending to the Mustang's injuries, cleaning the gash again, applying ointment, and wrapping the leg in a clean bandage. The horse flinches occasionally but doesn't pull away, as if it understands her intentions. "You're a fighter," she encourages. "You didn't give up." The thought strikes her deeply. She's seen injured animals, but this Mustang is different. It came to her for help. Later, Hannah calls Dr. Keller, a local vet who specializes in large animals. "I have an injured wild Mustang," she explains. "He has a deep gash and a swollen leg. I've done what I can, but he needs more." Dr. Keller agrees to come by the next morning but warns her, "He may not let us help if he's wild." Watching the Mustang rest in the paddock, she quietly replies, "I think he knows we're trying to help." That evening, she sits by the paddock, watching Rusty, as she decides to name him, graze. She placed hay and water nearby, but he only nibbles, still weak. "You've been through a lot," she whispers, feeling a connection. The next morning, Dr. Keller arrives, and Hannah leads him to the paddock. "That's a fine Mustang," he says, assessing the horse. "He's been through a lot," she replies. Dr. Keller examines Rusty, checking his leg and the gash. "He's lucky," he says. "The leg isn't broken, just sprained, and the cut will heal with care." Relief washes over Hannah. "So he'll be fine with time?" "Yes," Dr. Keller confirms, "but he needs rest and care. Even wild horses have limits." As he packs up, he tells her, "You have your work cut out for you, but if anyone can handle it, it's you." Watching him leave, Hannah turns back to Rusty, who stands near the fence, ears perked. "You heard that," she smiles. "We have work to do." The following days are slow but promising. Hannah spends every free moment with Rusty, caring for his wounds and watching his recovery. The swelling is going down, and the gash is healing, but she knows he needs to heal emotionally too. Rusty still keeps his distance, flinching at quick movements. Hannah understands his caution. He's been through a lot, and trust won't come easily. One crisp morning, she decides to try a different approach. With a bucket of oats, she sits a few feet away from him. "I won't rush you," she assures him. The Mustang stands at the far end, watching her closely. Minutes pass, then he takes a cautious step forward. Hannah remains still, heart racing as he approaches. When he finally reaches her, he sniffs the oats in her hand. "There you go," she murmurs. "I'm not scary." Rusty takes a small bite, moving carefully. For Hannah, it feels like a breakthrough, a small sign of trust. Over the next few days, their bond strengthens. Rusty allows her to approach without flinching and even starts following her around the paddock. "Rusty suits you," she says while brushing his coat one afternoon. He stands still, enjoying the attention. For Hannah, these moments feel special. Rusty's resilience and growing trust inspire her deeply. One evening, as the sunset paints the sky in orange and pink, Hannah watches Rusty graze. She reflects on the day he appeared, injured and broken, and wonders about his past. The next morning, she decides to investigate. At the local feed store, she asks if anyone is missing a Mustang. An older man shakes his head, and Hannah explains Rusty's story. The men listen with concern. "Check the canyon trails," one suggests. "There have been reports of illegal traps." Hannah's stomach churns. She knows about the traps that capture wild horses for profit, often cruelly. Anger and determination fill her as she heads to the canyon trails that afternoon. The rugged terrain is harsh for any animal, but she finds signs of disturbance: hoof prints, broken branches, and a crude trap made of metal fencing. Her fears are confirmed. Rusty likely escaped one of these traps, but not without injury. When she returns home, Rusty waits by the fence, ears up. Hannah approaches, brushing her hand against his neck. "You're safe now," she says softly. "No one will hurt you again." Learning about the trap strengthens her resolve. She reports it to local authorities and wildlife groups, determined to protect wild Mustangs. As weeks pass, Rusty heals both physically and emotionally. He becomes more curious and seeks out Hannah's presence, nickering when she's near. Each sign of progress feels like a victory, and she feels hopeful for their future together. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the paddock as Rusty walked along the fence, his shiny chestnut coat reflecting the health he had regained after weeks of care. Hannah watched from the porch, coffee in hand, a smile on her face. His progress was clear. He no longer limped, his wounds had healed, and the light in his eyes had returned. Still, she couldn't shake the memory of his past suffering. While tending to him that afternoon, she remembered the crude trap she had found in the canyon, and the thought of other Mustangs still in danger weighed heavily on her heart. "You're one of the lucky ones," she said gently, brushing his side. Rusty looked at her, ears flicking as if he understood. Hannah realized she couldn't sit back and do nothing. She started reaching out to local wildlife groups, sharing her findings and asking for help. Some offered resources, while others promised to spread the word, but many warned her about the difficulties of tackling such a big issue. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" her friend Sarah asked one evening. Hannah looked at Rusty grazing peacefully. "I have to do something. If I don't, who will?" The next morning, she returned to the canyon trails with volunteers and a representative from a Mustang rescue group. They spent hours looking for illegal traps and dismantling what they could find. Throughout the day, Hannah thought of Rusty, wondering how long he had been trapped and what had kept him going despite his injuries. By day's end, They had found several traps, some still usable and others rusting away. The rescue representative promised to report their findings to the authorities, but Hannah knew their work was just beginning. Back at the ranch, Rusty greeted her with a soft nicker. Leaning against the fence, she said, "You've endured so much, but you didn't give up, and neither will I." In the following weeks, Hannah dedicated herself to protecting mustangs. She organized community meetings, shared Rusty's story online, and spoke at town hall meetings about the importance of wild horse preservation. Rusty became the face of her campaign, inspiring many to join her cause. People from all walks of life reached out, including ranchers, animal lovers, and even children who sent her drawings of Rusty with encouraging messages. One afternoon, while working in the barn, she heard tires crunching on the gravel driveway. Stepping outside, she saw a truck with a horse trailer. A middle-aged man in a wide-brimmed hat got out, looking serious yet kind. "Are you Hannah Williams?" he asked, extending his hand. "Yes, I am," she replied. "And you are?" "I'm Tom Carter," he said. "I run a Mustang sanctuary a few hours south. I heard about your efforts and wanted to help." Tom explained that his sanctuary had room for more horses and that he was working on a project to rehabilitate injured Mustangs and return them to the wild. "I'd like to take Rusty for a while," he said. "He can help show others that they can heal too." Hannah hesitated, glancing at Rusty in the paddock. The thought of parting with him, even temporarily, tugged at her heart. But Tom was right. Rusty's strength could inspire others just as it had inspired her. After a moment of consideration, she nodded. "If it's best for him, then yes, but I want to be involved." Tom smiled. "I wouldn't want it any other way." The next day, as Tom loaded Rusty into the trailer, Hannah stood by the fence, feeling both pride and sadness. She placed a hand on Rusty's neck, her voice steady yet soft. "You're going to do amazing things. I know it." Rusty nickered softly, meeting her gaze one last time before stepping into the trailer. As the truck pulled away, Hannah felt a tear slip down her cheek but didn't wipe it away. This was just the beginning of their journey. The drive to Tom's sanctuary felt like a long farewell. Hannah followed closely, her heart heavy as she watched Rusty's silhouette through the trailer's slats. He had been her companion during weeks of healing, a reminder of resilience. Letting him go, even for a time, felt like losing a part of herself. However, as they entered the long dirt road to the sanctuary, her worries began to fade. The expanse of land stretched out, filled with rolling hills and open fields where horses roamed freely, unconfined by fences. Tom's sanctuary was even better than she had imagined, a place where Rusty could thrive. He parked near a large corral and motioned for her to join him. "This is where we'll start," he said, opening the trailer gate. Rusty stepped out slowly, taking in his new surroundings. Hannah stood beside him, gently resting her hand on his neck. "You're safe here," she reassured him. Tom observed their bond with a smile. "He trusts you. That's rare for a Mustang with his past." Hannah nodded, focused on Rusty. "We've shared a lot together. He's taught me just as much as I've helped him." Tom led Rusty into the corral, where two other Mustangs were waiting. One was a sleek black mare with a scar, and the other was a lively bay stallion. "Introducing him to others will help," Tom explained. "He'll form a herd and regain his natural instincts." Rusty hesitated but soon assessed the other horses. The mare stepped forward cautiously, and after a moment, she nickered softly, prompting Rusty to respond with a low whinny. Hannah watched in awe as they circled each other, communicating silently. "It's like they understand each other," she noted. "They do," Tom replied. "Horses connect through body language and energy. They don't need words, they just know." In the following days, Hannah stayed at the sanctuary, working alongside Tom to help Rusty adjust. She observed as he bonded with the other Mustangs, growing more confident each day. One afternoon, while leaning against the fence, Tom joined her, arms crossed. "You have a gift," he said. Hannah raised an eyebrow. "A gift with horses," he specified. "You understand them in ways most people don't. They trust you because you see them as individuals." A warmth filled Hannah's chest. She loved animals, but Rusty had awakened a deeper purpose within her. On the fifth day, Tom approached her with an offer. "You've seen our work here. I could use someone like you, someone who cares and understands." Hannah blinked, surprised. "Are you offering me a job?" "More like a partnership," Tom replied. "I want you to help expand this place, bring in more horses, and share their stories." Rusty has already inspired many. Imagine what we could do with a whole herd." Hannah looked at the sanctuary, seeing Rusty grazing with his new herd. The idea of leaving her small ranch was daunting, but being part of something bigger, giving other horses the same chance Rusty had, excited her. "I'll need time to think," she finally said. Tom nodded. "Take as long as you need, but know you've already made a difference." That evening, as the sun set, Hannah sat by the paddock, watching Rusty in the fading light. He had come so far from the injured creature that first appeared on her property. Now he was a leader, a symbol of hope. Hannah realized she couldn't walk away, not from Rusty, the sanctuary, or the chance to create something meaningful. The next morning, she found Tom in the barn, sorting supplies. "I've made my decision," she said firmly. Tom turned, curious, and, "I'm in," she replied with a smile. "Let's build this place together." Tom grinned, extending his hand. "Welcome to the team." As Hannah shook his hand, a sense of purpose filled her. Rusty had led her here to help him, but also to find her own path. Together, they were creating a legacy that would change the lives of many horses and those who cared for them. The following weeks marked a transformation for both Rusty and Hannah. Settling into sanctuary life, she thrived in the routines and challenges of caring for mustangs. The once injured horse was now a calm leader among his herd, becoming the heart of the sanctuary and inspiring everyone who met him. One cool autumn morning, Hannah stood at the pasture's edge, watching Rusty guide the other horses to a shady spot by the creek. The sanctuary buzzed with activity, volunteers fixing fences, children on field trips learning about wild mustangs, and new rescues settling into their temporary homes. Tom approached her, holding a clipboard. "We have 3 more horses coming this afternoon," he said. 2 mares and a stallion found wandering near the canyon. They likely escaped from traps. Hannah sighed, feeling tightness in her chest. While it was good news that they could help more horses, it also reminded her of the cruelty still happening outside their sanctuary. "We'll make room," she said determinedly. "We'll take care of them, no matter what." Tom nodded, appreciating Hannah more every day. "You're a natural at this," he said. "I don't know how I managed before you came." Hannah smiled, her eyes still on Rusty. "I couldn't have done this without him," she replied softly. As the day went on, the sanctuary was filled with energy. The new horses arrived, their eyes wide with fear as they stepped onto the unfamiliar ground. Hannah worked with Tom and the volunteers to help them settle in, speaking softly and offering hay and water. Rusty watched the newcomers with curiosity from the fence. One mare, a slender gray with a scar, approached cautiously. Rusty stretched his neck, nickering gently, and the mare seemed to relax around his calm presence. "He knows how to connect with them," Tom said, leaning on the fence beside Hannah. "He understands their struggles," she replied. "It's like he's telling them they're safe now." That evening, as the sun set and bathed the sanctuary in golden light, Hannah gathered the volunteers by the barn. They stood in a circle, their faces showing exhaustion and pride after a long day. "I just want to thank you all," Hannah began, her voice steady but emotional. "Each of you has contributed to making the sanctuary what it is. It's not just about saving horses, it's about helping them heal, trust again, and show what they can do." She paused, glancing at Rusty silhouetted against the fading light. "Rusty taught me something important. Even when things seem tough, there's always a way forward. Sometimes those who have been hurt the most have the greatest lessons to share." The group erupted in applause, lifted by her words. That night, Hannah sat by the paddock with her notebook open on her lap. She had started documenting each horse's story, hoping to compile them into a book to raise awareness about wild mustangs and their struggles. Rusty approached the fence, his ears perked as he watched her. She smiled and gently stroked his neck. "You've accomplished so much already," she said softly, "but there's still more to do." Months turned into years, and the sanctuary flourished. With every new horse that arrived, Hannah and Tom worked hard to ensure they received the care they needed. Rusty remained central to everything. His story inspired countless visitors and donors who supported the sanctuary's mission. One day, a young boy visiting with his family came up to Hannah by the paddock. "Is that Rusty?" he asked, pointing to the chestnut Mustang nearby. Hannah nodded, smiling. "That's him." The boy's eyes lit up. "I read about him online. He's a hero, isn't he?" Hannah laughed, feeling proud. "He is, and you can be a hero too, just by caring for animals like him." The boy beamed, his excitement infectious. Moments like these reminded Hannah why she chose this path and why Rusty had chosen her. As the sun set on another day at the sanctuary, Hannah stood by the fence, watching Rusty lead his herd to the creek. The air was cool, the sky a blend of pink and orange, and the sounds of horses filled the peaceful evening. "You saved me just as much as I saved you," she whispered, her voice carried by the wind. Rusty lifted his head, meeting her gaze briefly before rejoining his herd. Hannah smiled, knowing their journey was about more than just survival. It was about creating a legacy of hope, freedom, and second chances. Years passed, and the sanctuary became a symbol of hope for Mustangs in need. What began as a safe place for one injured horse expanded into a thriving refuge, sheltering many wild Mustangs rescued from traps, abuse, and neglect. Each horse had a story, but none resonated like Rusty's. Now the leader of the herd, Rusty carried himself with a quiet confidence that inspired everyone who met him. Hannah often reflected on the day Rusty appeared on her property. Initially, she thought she was saving him, but as she watched him nuzzle a young foal that had just been rescued, she realized how much he had saved her too. Rusty had given her purpose, a mission larger than herself, and a community of people who shared her passion for protecting these beautiful animals. As the sun set, casting golden hues across the fields, Hannah leaned against the fence, smiling softly. Rusty lifted his head, and their eyes met for a moment, as if he was saying thank you. Rusty's story shows that even in our darkest times, hope can shine through. If this tale of resilience and trust touched your heart, help us spread the message by subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and sharing it with someone who loves inspiring stories. Together, we can create a world where every animal gets the second chance they deserve. Join us in making a difference.